Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guests, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to be with you here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about a novel to settle our minds back, to just drift into an illusion, comfort our soul, and perhaps just say, oh, I just want to drift into something different than where I am today. I want to experience another person's journey. I want to feel into a different timeline. I want to know something of another's journey. Isn't that what a novel is all about? And it's truly about being able to say, oh, I just want to be able to breathe, let go of some of my stuff, and just have delight in the moment. That's what we're going to be talking about today. My guest is Shea Rose. Her book is Aced. It's the sequel to Cracker Jack. She has been on our show before with the original book, Cracker Jack, and now this is her second book. And it's absolutely wonderful because what it does is it just takes us on a journey of the human construct, the mind, the thoughts, the memories, the wants, the needs, and perhaps how we attain it. What is our life all about? How do we get from one place to another in our world, in business, and in love? Shea, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jeanette, and I'm so glad to be here again.
I'm so happy to have you because this kind of clears my mind, cleans my palate, kind of, so to speak. But it truly is about opening things up and saying, oh, just feels great to read a wonderful novel and just to shake things off. And, hey, things in my life and in this book are just kind of coinciding. Isn't it great to take the ride? Don't you think?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's truly great. I think, as we always pick up your books, you always have this gorgeous, handsome man on the cover. And I think right there, if you're a woman, sorry, you're going to pick up the book. You're going to be interested. You're going to look at it and you're going to say, I don't know what it's about, but I'm sure going to put that into my pocket. And I think that truly rides all along about your book is, wouldn't you like to have a good-looking man like that in your pocket, right?
Well, yes, I think most women would, but sometimes looks can be not all that great. If the integrity behind the person or the morals are not there, then it doesn't matter because you really don't have anything anyway. That's another form of illusion. But what I did with this character was I made him ethical. He has morals. He has integrity. And he doesn't cheat,
Yeah.
So, yes, that one would be a good one to have.
Absolutely. Well, I think that you go right there to your title, Aced. He's got all of his ducks in a row. Everything is out on, you know who he is when you meet him. You know what his morals are all about. And truly, it's like, how do other people try to tether him or puppet string him and to be able to swing him to their side? Don't you think that's what a lot of your characters in this book were trying to do?
Of course. And to me, that's how life is, whether you look that good or not. If you have something that people are either threatened by or they want to have for themselves, they'll try and get at it through divisive means. And what it calls for is being strong within yourself so that you can stand in your own authenticity and know exactly what you will do and what you won't do. And that's the essence of what I was showing with this character or sharing with this character.
What I really liked about the book is that it really got into some women's thoughts, their actions, their little devious actions,
mm-hmm.
and how they can manipulate the scenario that they want to be. And I think if we were truly honest, many of us have many of those times in our lifetime where perhaps we haven't verbally put the story together because we don't ever want to let the cat out of the bag kind of speak, you know. So I think when you're reading this book, it's really wonderful to say, ooh, I did something like that. Oh, she did that too? So you kind of feel, you kind of feel like a woman comrade, a comrade kind of idea. Do you know what I mean? A kinship kind of idea.
And that's what I was seeking to do, put aspects of human behaviors on the table and have them sift through this one person who had this ability to see through or get to the root of things that were not so full of character. You know, he could deal with unsavoriness, but in a way that it wasn't crystal clear right from the beginning. But in the end, you do see that he comes through with a way of getting at things that are very concrete.
Yeah. It also tells about human nature, you know, about what we're looking for in relationships, in love, perhaps for hookups, perhaps for times in our lives, as the character talks about college years. Many of us, well, most of us, and myself included, have many stories from college years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we kind of said, let's let those memories drift away, but they seem to rise up many years later, just as the character did, you know, in the book, you know, 2 decades later. Don't you
mm-hmm.
think that, in a way, a lot of the events that happen in our life truly are part of our life, and we like to enjoy them and to think about them? Perhaps?
We do, and with the character that was holding on to the memory of him, it wasn't even like she was like sitting around thinking about him every day. He re-entered her life, you know, because who knows what's going to happen? You know, you go around a corner, who knows who you're going to meet. But in this instance, he resurfaced in her life and brought back all these memories about how she believed that at the time that they were hanging out together, it was going to lead to some evolutionary moment and they were going to get married. But that wasn't his reality at the time. Right. It was hers, but they didn't have a shared thought process. And when he resurfaced in her life, she thought she could regain that, but he had moved on, and he moved on from something that he didn't have that great of an interest in the first place.
Yeah.
So, you know, it what resonated with me in terms of working and writing the book is that people have these things that happen to them in life, and what their reality is different from the other person that they're involved with.
Right. But I think also, too, which was vitally important in your book, was that you have a limited time on this earth, as you have a few characters who exited rather quickly. And when they did, I think that just before they exited, it was that they were trying to capture just a sense of being loved in the world and to give love.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
I think that however we have to get there, however we have to travel to find, or perhaps even who we have to knock down on our path, or whoever we have to rope in, if that's what we need, I think that's where a lot of people will say, this is what I need. Somehow my soul knows I need to get this right now, or I need to try to find it right now. And I think your characters were really on that quest. Yes?
Yeah, a sense of self-validation, something that they could say, I've made it, I've gotten what I believe I'm here for. Mm-hmm. And in a way, for both of them, the two that did exit, it was such incorrect thinking, though. You know, they didn't allow themselves to be who they really were. until it was a little too late.
Yeah. I think, though, also, too, when we think about it in life, do we always have to have the correct answer, the correct way, or find it and it's perfect? Or can our journey in lifetime be a ton of missteps? Because you want to go out and touch and feel the daisies, so to speak, but you also want to smell the cow pasture. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in essence, is it not that we say it's the right way and, oh, you finally got there and your mission in life was complete, blah, blah, blah. Maybe your entire life was all about what some people would, quote, call the mistakes or excuses or reasons or pitfalls or whatever. And I always like to turn around and say, absolutely awesome, tell me about that story. Because when you do that, it is part of someone's life. Whether it's good, bad, or the ugly, it still is part of their life and their journey. Do you think that's really what your book really took us on, was the journey, whether it was good, bad, or ugly? It still took us on a great journey of each character.
It did, and I think it also gave people an ability to recognize that life is a learning experience. I mean, you can read about what these characters went through and see if any of it resonates with your own life journey. But if it does, it gives people an opportunity to reflect and say, I did have an aha moment in reading this character's journey. And perhaps that was part of my journey, you know, in terms of like coming to the recognition of what was actually happening versus the illusion.
I think a lot of times we want to sugarcoat things, or we always look back at our life in retrospect, you know, and we say, we pick out that which we can remember. And sometimes we always want to, I call it romancing the past. But I think that's where our heart pretty much wants to feel comforted, in romancing the past. Because if we turn around and always look at all the bad stuff or always have this negative connotation of it, what's the point there? You always feel like you're always digging up daisies. Do you know what I mean? You just don't feel like you're getting anywhere. So why not romance something? Why not have an illusion? Why not say, yeah, that's what I did, and enjoy your own story in your own mind? I mean, it's not...
And if it works for you, that's great.
Right.
But when you find out that the way you have tried to romance your own story and so forth, and it's not working well, then that's a different education point for you. That's a different learning point. And, you know, life is... That, to me, is what life is. I did some studying of metaphysics, and there's the law of relativity. And it's that no matter what happens to you, there's always something worse that has happened to someone else. Everything is relative. Right. And if you can kind of, even though you think something is bad, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and say, gee, I don't know how I would have even dealt with that. Right. And bring that back to yourself. It kind of helps you to find the silver lining even in your cloud.
Right, because then that truly is about being able to say, I thank myself for the journey that I've been on. A lot of times people will turn around and say, well, I must have been good, bad, or right or wrong, you know, and they don't have that sense of, I'm okay, and I can get up tomorrow and I can make a different choice tomorrow. I can create a different path tomorrow. I can look at things differently tomorrow. And each and every day we have that choice, right?
Absolutely. It's all up to us. We create our own reality, the things we do, the things we don't do. And that's essentially what I was writing about in this book, in addition to helping people to understand how to use their health care benefits. Like the time that I wrote this story, it was around the managed care controversy that was brewing, and everybody hated HMOs and so forth. But today they're a lot better because there was somebody that had the understanding that Alonzo, my character in the book, the attorney, had about this health care conundrum here, that people needed to understand how it was really supposed to work and use it the way it's supposed to work. And that was the other underlying issue or underlying presentation within the story.
I think it's also to the idea is that there are people out there who are not, when they have themselves straight in their morals and their beliefs and they're doing business can be constructed in the same way your personal life is. But if you're a type of person who is always trying to be a shyster or cut things back or what is it going to do for me kind of idea, it does come across in your personal life, but it also reflects in the choices you make at work, how you might have set up the contracts, how you might have responded to the people in the office, how you may have seen, how your projects going forward would fit in or not fit in. Don't you think that was vitally important that your character had everything, all bells and whistles, straight on? And that's why he was such a success, yes?
Yes. He had already, in the book Cracker Jack, he had already dealt with a lot of unsavoriness, people trying to get around the rules and the regulations. So he already had been prompted or primed for knowing how to deal with that, just in terms of human behaviors. But the other thing in this book is that those negative types of behaviors were now being directed at him because people were jealous of his statue and, where he was going in this new role that he had taken on in Washington. So it just shows you, like, you have experiences in life that actually do prep you and prime you for your next part of the journey. And I think that's the other thing that, from one book to the other, that I was making the point about, that every aspect of your life prepares you for the next aspect, whether you realize it or not. And it's very subtle. It definitely, there's nobody standing around with flashcards saying, okay, you went through this, now this is going to prepare you for the next thing. It's just the way you handle all of these things, and you can reflect back within yourself and say, I've seen this kind of behavior before.
Okay. Now
it's being hurled at me, and now let me see how I can best deal with this, try and diffuse it, and get away from it ultimately.
Right, because sometimes people will say, this is my way that I used to operate before, and it's just something I'm done with that book, I've kind of closed it, and it's finished, but it's not who I am. It's just something that I went through or that I was doing at the time, but who I am today is who I want to be. I think that's so vitally important because sometimes people will take those old memories, those old acquaintances, just as your characters did in the book, and they keep bringing them forth. But it's always the past that you bring back, but you're not the same person you were when you were 20, when you're 40.
True.
So I think when we keep trying to dig those things up, even when you see this when you go to reunions and things, oh, I know you, and not a word is about who the person is. It's all about who they remember them as,
Right.
So I think in a way, what it's saying is we are evolving through time. We are not meant to hold on and be this big collection of all of our stories. Do you think?
Only when they give you your aha moments about helping you to move on to the next phase of yourself.
Right.
And I think that's the other key to living life successfully, that you get something out of every phase of your life that helps you transition into your next phase. We're all evolving and we're all growing, and to be able to take experiences from one phase to the next that helps build your character or strengthens your position or gives you more insight in terms of how things work or could potentially play out. All of those are just to your good, to your highest good.
Let's talk for a second about the characters in the book where your main character just I almost see it as he kind of opens the door but steps back and lets everything play out and is just watching it. In other words, your characters kind of hung themselves, so to speak, you know? They kind of spewed all of their drama, didn't know what to do, and they were kind of acting out a play in which they thought he was in and involved with, and he wasn't. He was standing on the other side of the fence just watching the scenario. And I think that's very important. You know, sometimes we say, well, he's talking about me, I need to get involved in it. Sometimes the best thing to do is just stand there and watch it play out. It may or may not be about you, but just stand there for a minute and see what happens and see how it plays out. And if you're willing to be engaged in it, are you then part of their story or trying to justify it or validate it or make it right or wrong, so to speak? Or can you just stand to the side, let it play out, and see what happens? I think your book so uniquely was the latter of, you know, let's stand to the side and see what happens, right?
Patience is a virtue. So he stood back and watched it play out, and it played out poorly for those who were trying to upset the apple cart, so to speak, and were doing these divisive things.
Well, I think also, too, it came out that it was their illusions. It wasn't their truth. In other words, they were doing it for the wrong reasons, you know, and you could see it. It was so much manipulation on their side, or mischief, or untruth, you know, right?
Yes. It's a good word. I like that word.
Well, I think that almost every one of the characters had something that was like, they were all shady, so to speak, you know what I mean? And when you think about shady, you go, well, what do you mean by that? We're going, I don't know. Why don't you dance and check out the book? The book we're talking about today is Aced, the sequel to Cracker Jack. And I think what is really wonderful about it is, just as in your first book, you kind of like start reading the book and you don't put it down. And, you know, for myself, I sit down and I just read it right through. And it didn't take me all day. It only took me, you know, 2.5 hours. And what was good about it was that I didn't come away with a sense of feeling that I had to go out and fix something. I had to go out and do something. I needed to go buy something. I needed to do this, that, or the other. I just had an enjoyable read. Do you think that perhaps... You know, because I think that perhaps sometimes, you know, books kind of like rake you over the coals and you come out with a feeling of judgment or, oh dear, or maybe I have to hide that other segment of myself because look at how the characters got fried. This is kind of like, oh no, they got fried, but it was a good thing, you know, see how they did it? You almost feel as if you're the main character versus being the shady people.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that.
Well, I like it because also, too, you know, sometimes we say, do I want to have a moment of just like, as I call it, a light summer read? That's what this type book is about. But do you think that in a way our characters also, too, say, is this really how business is done? Is it shady all the time? Or are there a few good players, just as your main character was?
I think there are both because, you know, the world is made up of good and evil, so to speak. And it kind of takes both to make the world go round. You know, I don't think it can be all good with everybody all the time because that's just not life. At least I've not seen that ever play out, but I'm just a little piece of sand in the sandbox. But I think, you know, you're going to come in contact with both elements in your workforce, and it depends on who you are to survive it or to navigate it so that you end up where your particular authenticity is going to be best served. And even for people who are authentically just not so great in terms of personality or mischief, you know, some people thrive on the mischief stuff until it just doesn't work for them anymore and they actually see that. But, you know, it depends on who they are as characters, what their soul urges are, and whether or not they're going to find themselves and revamp themselves at some point in time. But I think there's some people who absolutely thrive in a mischievous kind of way, being that way.
Right. Let's talk for a second about workplace romance or workplace engagements or twists or kind of dabbling in that which they shouldn't be bringing into the office. Because I think the idea is that if you're really truly there to do work and you can really keep your head on straight, you really can accomplish a lot and be successful. However, when sometimes when personal issues come into the office and things kind of get entangled, things kind of like go to the wayside. In other words, everything is not the I's dotted, the sentences are edited, everything is concise and clean papered. It kind of gets shady. Do you think perhaps that's something that you brought through in your book too, about how things are done here?
Yes, I do. With the character that wanted to get involved again with the protagonist, she wanted to have, this love affair start up and play out again. And he was definitely not for that. He had no interest whatsoever. But when it got back to his boss, and when he talked to his boss about what this woman had done, the boss said, that kind of stuff, what you do personally is not my concern, but when it comes into the workplace, it creates lost productivity because others get wind of it and start spending a lot of time talking about it. So that's lost productivity for a company, and that's not a good thing. And especially when it gets to the boss's attention and he doesn't want to hear all that nonsense, then some heads can potentially roll. So it's really not a good thing for these office romances to, play out in the workplace.
We see it quite often, I think more so we've seen in it workplace romances and kind of like frivolity, so to speak, in decades past. I think people are becoming smarter. They're becoming, this is what my work is about, this is what my life is about. They're being a little bit more careful about what they choose to do at work and at home. Well, I think that also, too, yes, there is some in this today. Maybe I think what I'm almost reflecting on is that I am a better person now. In my later years, in my decades, I know who I am. I choose not to be able to engage in that stuff. So I'm seeing it from my vantage point, my perspective, and I don't participate in any of that. So in essence, I think while there are many of these events going on, I think that it's in different decades of life sometimes too.
Yes.
That people are choosing to do that. There may be some who have felt like unrequited and, they're in their 60s and 70s and they're looking for something they're missing, but then there's maybe young ones who are looking to just get out and explore. Others are looking for something that they're not sure about, but they're kind of like making those leaps. So there are many different types of scenarios that people are engaging in their decades of life, don't you think?
Absolutely. Billions of stories out here. And yes, as we travel through life and have different experiences or search for different experiences, we do a lot of things. Some we look back and regret, and others we say, gee, that was really a good move. But yes, I think with age comes wisdom. So some of the things that we would have done in prior decades, we certainly wouldn't do in 60s and 70s.
Right. Also, too, in closing, let's talk about the idea of how do you, when you're in a place where you feel a little better, you know who you are, and you know what your truths and beliefs are about, and there's all of this going around you, maybe in your office or your workplace or other people you know or whatever. It's about surrounding yourself with those that you trust. Just as your character was releasing the people that he didn't need, but he also, too, knew who he could trust and brought them closer to him. So I think the idea is, how do we pay attention and say, you know what, I value your relationship. I value your communication with me. I value us engaging, and I'd like to keep you close. I think just that statement right there, if you said that to somebody, people would go, awesome. What are our beliefs? What's our mission statement? Let's get this on, and let's keep it going, right?
And I think that's at the key of, especially as we get older, who authentically are we? And what is it that helps us live for our greatest good? And that kind of thought process, I don't think, comes to mind until we do get some age on us. And we do want to avoid the drama and the hassle and the hustle and the bustle to the best of our ability. You know, so I think, again, it all comes back to, do you know yourself? And if you don't, are you willing to know yourself? And that does require soul searching. And I don't know that I think, you know, again, as we age, I think it's something that we get to, but it's not an easy process. And when you become enlightened, it's not something that we readily accept sometimes. So life is just a process until it's over. But we're always continually evolving.
And I think it's really important to note, too, is that we're not all supposed to attain this level on a ladder and everybody be the very same imperfection. It's about being able to say, well, gosh, look at that person. They always keep doing those things, those mistakes, or they're always the one who's sticking their finger in the outlet, kind of speak. Well, in essence, maybe that's their mission in life, to go around to trigger people so that other people can be better. You know what I mean? So we always want to believe that everybody is going to be good. Everybody's going to be perfect, and we all have to drag everybody's butt along with us to get them there. When in essence, that isn't what a tapestry is all about. A tapestry is all about broken strings, different colors, different ways that it fits together. That's what life is all about. So I think the idea sometimes when people read these books, they say, oh, well, I shouldn't be like that. I don't want to be like that. Whatever. It's just relax yourself, chill out. Hey, I did that before, and then, let me tell you my story. But that's okay. And that's, I think, what we really want to share, too, is that, look at your life and say, isn't this awesome? I mean, I know we want to change and be better, but we can also, too, say, that was me, but that isn't me today. And isn't that a great place to be?
Absolutely. But, for those people that you just mentioned whose mission in life is to go through triggering people and to never change, that is, who I had also mentioned before, like those kinds of people in the workplaces. There will be those who trigger you, and, they don't find anything wrong with their behaviors. They are just who they are. And that is their authenticity. That is what their mission is.
That's their mission, yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes we always think that there's these people that are always supposed to be imperfect. Do you know what I mean? And it's sort of like, oh gosh, no, there are going to be kids who have temper tantrums, and there are going to be those who get great grades. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. It's called a paradigm, I mean, there's all of these things, there's a different a range of everything. Just as when you turn in and you dial in a radio station in your car and you're driving down the street, never is there a single spot where it is exactly the same. It always is a little bit on or off, or changing or moving or louder or softer, So I think
things that make the world go round.
Right. I think it's about enjoying people as they are and saying, whoa, isn't this awesome? And that's what a novel is all about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly. Well, Shea, it was such a pleasure to have you with us. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work and your other books? That would be great.
Sure. Crackerjack and Aced are both available through Amazon.com and through Barnes & Noble, mostly online.
Very good. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you with us today. I thank you so much for joining us because sometimes we need a novel to be able to see the little intricacies in our life and just how to dance and be okay with, where we are. And I think that's truly both of your books were absolutely wonderful on that.
And thank you so very much for having me. It's been a pleasure being a guest and hope to meet up in the future.
Very good. Well, if you'd like more information on Shea Rose, again, the book is Ace, sequel to Crackerjack that we spoke about today. She also has the other show that we've recorded with her book, Crackerjack. Check out both. And also to be able to say, it is going to be okay to sit down and read a book, enjoy my time, and just be able to say, this is absolutely awesome. Turn around and write your own book. Your own book can be that of illusion. It doesn't have to be about reality. You don't have to dot all of your I's and make sure everything is correct. Just turn around and have a really great time in sharing your thoughts, your deep inner feelings, and what really touches your heart and your soul. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher. Until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit drjeanettegallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.